Donald Trump is now making emergency filings to shut down cases that he has brought or that the DOJ has been bringing at Donald Trump's request. For example, on the Trump personal side, Trump sued the BBC for $10 billion, saying that they defamed him and how they covered January 6th. And I want $10 billion. So the BBC said, okay, great. You want $10 billion. We're going to subpoena your financials. Let's see how you claim you were injured by $10 billion. And then Donald Trump's like, you don't have the right to go into my finances. You need to subpoena the Trump Revocable Trust. And the Trump Irrevocable Trust is not a party to this litigation. Donald Trump is, not the Irrevocable Trust. That's a third party, and the third party shouldn't be brought into this litigation. I'm not Donald Trump Irrevocable Trust, so I'm not going to turn over financial documents. And the BBC's like, look, you propounded 437 document requests on us. We've done our duty. We've turned over tens of thousands of documents. We just want your most basic information about your finances because you claim a $10 billion loss. That was your headline in the case. So if your headline in the case is that you've lost $10 billion, we would like to see the damages, please. And then Trump's like, no, we're not going to show it to you at all. By the way, that's what I've always said about these Trump defamation cases or these Trump lawsuits. Rather than doing motions to dismiss, just answer the complaint, get to summary judgment later, propound discovery right away, notice his deposition, because then Trump doesn't put up anything. Zero documents. Then he wants to drag it out over and over again, and then he won't actually litigate the case and it'll eventually be dismissed. So that's that example. Let me give you another example with the $10 billion number as well. You notice the theme here. Donald Trump sues his own IRS, or it's our IRS technically, and the Treasury Department for $10 billion, saying that because Trump administration one IRS leaked 450,000 people's tax returns, which one of them included Donald Trump in 2019 when Trump was the president. So a contractor who worked for Trump was the person who did it. By the way, who former President Biden prosecuted. Can you imagine Trump prosecuting someone who was leaking Biden's tax returns? Donald Trump is basically saying, well, as it relates to this $10 billion lawsuit, I'm not pursuing this lawsuit. I dismissed the case that I filed. And now the Department of Justice says we're not pursuing the settlement agreement anymore as it relates to the $1.8 billion slush fund for the January 6th insurrectionists. So now anybody who wants to dig deeper into the settlement agreement in the $10 billion lawsuit that Trump filed against the IRS and the Treasury Department, you have no right to even sue the DOJ anymore or ask us for information because none of this is justiciable. Trump dismissed the lawsuit in Florida, the original $10 billion lawsuit. And now you can't sue us over the slush fund because there is no slush fund anymore. And we're all just going to move on and no one has standing. And let's not pretend that Donald Trump even filed that. Let's not get into the facts that this was a collusive and unlawful settlement. No more investigations. We're done, right? We're cool here, right? Remember, there are two actions now taking place as it relates to that Trump $10 billion lawsuit. Trump tried to dismiss this case in the Southern District of Florida after filing it there for $10 billion. A group of 35 federal judges filed an amicus brief saying that the judge in that case, Kathleen Williams, had Rule 60 authority, it's called, to reopen the case to determine the collusive nature of the settlement and if improprieties were committed. And the judge agreed to basically reopen the case for the purpose of demanding the parties, Trump and the DOJ, and there's a brief that's due June 12th coming up, explain what the hell happened there. So that's what's taking place there. Separately, there was a lawsuit filed in a Virginia federal courthouse to block the slush fund. The federal judge temporarily blocked the slush fund there. Thereafter, the Trump regime was using the temporary restraining order as a way to say, okay, the slush fund's been permanently blocked at this point, citing the Eastern District of Virginia ruling as the reason, not the political pressure and the pressure of the people, which is the real reason why they withdrew the slush fund. But they're saying that the judge, So now they filed a motion before this federal judge in the Eastern District of Virginia saying, Judge, you should just dismiss the case. Let's not look into this anymore because we are now announcing there is no more slush fund, notably missing from a brief that the Trump DOJ just filed to the Eastern District of Virginia is any mention of a part of the settlement agreement that waived all audits, investigations, and claims against Donald Trump for past tax fraud, tax evasion, money that Donald Trump took as deductions inappropriately, tax evasion. Remember, there was a waiver of all claims against Trump, the Trump organization, and his family from any claims about Trump's taxes from the present all the way back to the past. That's not even addressed in the brief that was just filed by the Justice Department in the Eastern District of Virginia. But the broader argument here to be making, Trump files lawsuits for $10 billion, then doesn't litigate them when people fight back and he loses. And then he tries to basically squirm out of it by saying no one has standing. You can't look into it because I give up. I get the headline that I wanted. I get to raise money off of it. I get to make my social media posts, but then you don't get to hold me accountable when I'm exposed for what I'm doing in these cases. And I think federal judges and I think people are pissed off and saying, no, you don't just get to bring these cases, then not follow through on them, and then claim that there's no repercussion for you. Because if it was anybody else, there'd be real repercussions. But let's bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Substack, and podcast. Harry, it's great to see you, but this is what you and I predicted they were going to do. They're going to make this argument before Kathleen Williams, the federal judge in Florida, when they file it. They've made this argument now in front of the Eastern District of Virginia federal judge, who temporarily, TRO, blocked the slush fund. Hey, this is non-justiciable. No one can, we can't even look into this anymore because we're not doing it. And I think the people who brought the lawsuit, even I think it was, who is it? Was it Senator Cassidy and Senator Booker, who filed an amicus brief in the Virginia case. And they said, no, we're not trusting your representations. Like, this needs to be addressed head on. What do you make of it all, Harry?
I would really like to pat ourselves on the back for predicting it. But my first thought is, this is so damn predictable. The whole thing, and we predicted that one was already prefigured the last time around. This voluntary settlement that we all saw coming, that was because they were at the cusp of actually having to make a response to the claim that this could well be a collusive lawsuit. And they instead, whatever they would say it isn't? Give me a break. We know that Trump controls it. Would they say it is? Well, sorry, the Constitution forbids exactly that. They were between a rock and a hard place, so they just kind of bolted to not have to answer. Now, though, Judge Williams has said they do have to answer, and I want to get back to that in a minute. But Leonie Brinkema, who's done this state, remember the first thing they said was, we're going to comply with the law. Now, of course, they're coming in emergency, actually dissolve that injunction of yours. And why? This, at the time this was written, they're relying on these representations that Blanche makes in the Senate when he refused even to put it in writing. Screw you. I've said it. That's all you need to know. I had said, in fact, I said this last night on All In on MS, that they're gonna have to back away from and put it in writing, and they now have. But the notion that just because they say so without really making it clear that it's not moribund, that they can right now, you still have Trump, who controls everything, saying he kind of likes the fund, etc. And we'll see whether it's even officially dead. And I think they may have, been a little too two-faced here, because Judge Brinkema has just been told, they're going to follow what she says, and now all of a sudden they want it to all go away. Completely predictable that that's what they say. And though I do think they'll have versions of it with Judge Williams next Friday when they have to submit their brief. But, and it's a really big but, what Williams has said is, you may have defrauded me. That's why I have, and the federal courts, and used us. And that's why I have the power to reopen this settlement and ask you these questions, potentially apply Rule 11 sanctions to the lawyers, to include Boris Epshteyn, Trump's personal lawyer, and Stan Woodward, the third ranking member in the DOJ, and Blanche himself signed, had his name on one of the filings. And it doesn't matter if the whole thing goes away. What I'm looking into is whether you defrauded me then. And, you've made this point, Ben, recently. If you're thinking about some kind of penalty or consequences, it's a 100% clear. This is a lawsuit he brought in his personal capacity, and fraud, which is what we're looking at. There's kind of fraud on the court, civil fraud, criminal fraud. It's really fairly related. And there is no way that he can hold up the get out of jail free card that the Supreme Court provided him. It's a classic instance of him in his private capacity. That is the whole notion. But I just want to say we should look really carefully. They're going to try to make the claim in front of Williams that the whole thing, again, it's all over now between friends, nothing to litigate here, everybody move on. That is wrong for the reason I said. She's looking at something else, but also they're talking out of both sides of their mouths, is Todd Blanche. Oh, and by the way, a little point here: if Todd Blanche can stand up for a settlement agreement and say that's off the books now, what more proof do you need that the whole thing's collusive? If it was a real settlement agreement, the DOJ couldn't say the day after they signed it, it's dead now. The person who was on the other side would say, what are you talking about? We have an agreement. But anyway, this is going to come up. What is the friggin' status of this amnesty provision? Are you saying, when you say, Todd Blanche, we do this all the time, you mean when you settle bona fide cases? So that raises the question, is this a bona fide case? And guess what? It is not. And I think that's what's going to be in front of Judge Williams. It's not constitutional case or controversy. It's barred by the statute of limitations. As you say, Little John, the person who leaked the files, is not an IRS employee. The DOJ already successfully defended on that basis. Okay, no, it's not that. It's off the books. It's just what? If it's off the books, that means that the Attorney General of the United States just gave a bounty, taxpayer funded, worth at least $100 million, and based on friggin' nothing, just a birthday present to the president he has said he loves so much. And when that is clarified, I think the political opposition and just sort of complete allergy that some Republicans were showing to what they've done here, it really ought to return when the public, when it's made clear to all of us that what they're doing with the fund is even more brazen. What they're doing with the amnesty provision is even more brazen than what they tried to do with the fund. They got to go one way or another. Are you relying on the settlement that you're here saying doesn't matter, everything's off the books, or are you not? Both decisions or both positions just are not tenable, and they're going to try to say nothing. I don't think Judge Williams is going to stand for that come next Friday.
Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, his podcast, and his Substack, all called Talking Feds. And when this video ends, just search Talking Feds. You could subscribe to our YouTube channel also, but go to Talking Feds and tell Harry in the comments that Ben says hi. Thanks, Harry.
I'll be reading them.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.